Welcome, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer because today, well, we're unpacking a total blockbuster of a story that's literally sending shockwaves through Silicon Valley. We're talking about the unprecedented July 2026 federal lawsuit between Apple and OpenAI. I gotta tell you, when I first read through this complaint, I was completely blown away. What starts out as a pretty standard story about tech partnerships rapidly turns into a high-stakes corporate thriller. We've got alleged espionage, secret hardware, and billions of dollars on the line. Just think about the incredible paradox here. Back in 2024, Apple and OpenAI were intimate software partners, right? They seamlessly integrated ChatGPT straight into iOS 18. But fast forward 2 years to July 2026, and they are bitter legal enemies. Apple drops this staggering 174-page federal lawsuit alleging a coordinated theft of trade secrets. You kind of have to ask yourself, how do two giants share a bed in your iPhone while simultaneously fighting a massive, scorched earth war in federal court? To really grasp the sheer scale of this fight, we actually have to go back to a mind-blowing $6.5 billion transaction. In May of 2025, OpenAI paid that exact staggering amount to buy a hardware startup called IO Products. Now, this wasn't just some standard acquisition. It was OpenAI's largest hardware play ever, and it set the incredibly high stakes for the whole corporate espionage thriller we're about to unpack. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to hit 1. Frenemies in federal court. 2. The alleged hardware heist. 3. The mystery AI device. 4. The war for talent. And 5. What happens next? All right, jumping right into Section 1, Frenemies and Federal Courts, the foundation of the feud. The build-up to this lawsuit was incredibly rapid. In June 2024, the big iOS partnership is announced. But just a few months later, in October, Teng Tan, who's this 24-year Apple veteran and vice president of iPhone and Apple Watch design, leaves the company. He then co-founds IO Products right alongside legends like Johnny Ive and Evans Hankey. Then, boom, May 2025, OpenAI buys that exact startup. By February 2026, a critical server bug is allegedly exploited. And that brings us to July 10, 2026, when Apple officially names OpenAI, IO Products, Teng Tan, and another engineer, Chang Liu, as defendants in federal court. Which brings us to Section 2, the alleged hardware heist, bugs, boards, and betrayal. Now, what really caught my eye in these filings was this smoking gun quote from February 2026. This is an alleged message from Chang Liu, a former Apple senior systems electrical engineer who had joined OpenAI. According to the complaint, Liu found a super rare authentication bug on an Apple-issued work laptop that he just hadn't returned yet. Instead of, reporting the flaw, Apple claims Liu used it to quietly poke around shared network folders filled with highly sensitive data. And he texts a former colleague, "LOL, I found out I can access the network storage. So funny." So what exactly did he allegedly take? Well, according to Apple's court filings, over several weeks, Liu downloaded dozens of confidential hardware files. We're talking detailed info on unreleased products, internal engineering presentations, technical specs, the whole shebang. Apple specifically points out a presentation on their complex circuit boards. They note in the lawsuit that these specific files would be absolutely invaluable to literally anyone trying to build competing consumer hardware from scratch. But Apple claims this wasn't just some one-off bug exploit by one guy. They allege it was a highly coordinated pattern of theft. For instance, they claim that before leaving Apple, Teng Tan forwarded sensitive supplier info right to his personal email. The complaint also says OpenAI specifically appointed Tan to coach new hires on how to sneak through Apple's exit procedures without raising any red flags. On top of that, Apple claims OpenAI actually demonstrated Apple's proprietary metal finishing techniques to their own manufacturing partners. So according to Apple, this went way, way beyond your normal tech industry poaching. All right, Section 3, the mystery AI device, uncovering the secret blueprint. To figure out what they're building, we have to look at the legal clues, specifically this technology called System in Package, or SIP. Basically, it's an electronic packaging tech that takes a CPU, a GPU, memory, sensors, and just crams them all into one tiny package. It's exactly how Apple fits a whole computer into something the size of a hearing aid, like your AirPods. Well, according to the lawsuit, OpenAI was actually asking job candidates to bring these exact Apple SIP modules, plus batteries and logic boards, to their interviews for a little show and tell. So I really want you to think about this for a second. Based on a $6.5 billion hardware acquisition, a massive recruitment drive for miniaturization experts, stolen metal finishing techniques, and this deep obsession with tiny system and package modules. What exactly is OpenAI building? If we combine Apple's legal complaint with recent industry reporting, we actually get a surprisingly clear picture of this unannounced device. The form factor? Expected to be a screenless wearable or maybe a smart speaker with a built-in camera. The engine? Almost certainly powered by GPT-5 or whatever comes next. And the launch date is projected for the end of 2026 or early 2027. And look, it's absolutely crucial to remember. Apple would not ask a federal court for an injunction against a totally make-believe product. The sheer existence of this lawsuit basically confirms that OpenAI's hardware program is very real and a very genuine threat. Moving on to Section 4, the war for talent. Building a hardware dream team. The whole crux of this issue really comes down to one staggering number: 400. Over 400 former Apple employees now work at OpenAI. You see, OpenAI can buy all the cloud compute they want, and they can raise billions in capital. But consumer hardware requires a much, much scarcer resource. You need engineers who actually know how to ship miniaturized electronics at a scale of 100 million units. And the overwhelming majority of those specific people, they were trained at one place: Apple. This 400-person migration is literally the most aggressive talent bottleneck in the entire tech industry right now. As you might guess, this creates two wildly different perspectives. Apple's view is that this is nowhere near normal recruitment. They explicitly call it a coordinated pattern of theft and an unlawful shortcut to bypass years of hard R&D. But OpenAI's view? Exact opposite. They completely deny the allegations, arguing that this is just healthy competition for talent. They're quick to point out that California doesn't even enforce non-compete laws, and they claim Apple is just using this massive lawsuit to stifle competition and hide their own embarrassing server security flaws. As an explainer, it's just fascinating to see how the exact same actions are framed so differently by these two titans. And finally, Section 5. What happens next? The future of the AI industry. Make no mistake, Apple isn't just looking for a simple apology here. Their primary demand is a preliminary injunction. They want a federal judge to bar OpenAI from using any allegedly stolen information and force the return of every single confidential document. To pull this off, Apple brought in the powerhouse tech law firm Cooley LLP. If the court actually grants this injunction, it could completely halt OpenAI's hardware program right as they are racing toward a critical launch window. When we break down the probabilities of how this all plays out, the data really points to a long road ahead. Analysts give a 60% probability to a grueling, drawn-out 2 to 3 year legal battle, one where discovery is going to reveal a lot of embarrassing details for both sides. There's a 20% chance of a quick, quiet settlement, a 15% chance of that devastating injunction Apple wants, which would basically force OpenAI to start from scratch, and only a tiny 5% chance of a complete, outright victory for OpenAI in court. So, what should we really take away from all this? First, just hiring top talent isn't enough. Startups absolutely must have rigorous processes to ensure trade secrets don't cross over. Second, internal security is vital. I mean, that authentication bug should have never existed in the first place. Third, in Silicon Valley, your most intimate software partner can become your biggest courtroom rival overnight. And finally, brand damage happens instantly. Even before a judge makes a ruling, suppliers and investors are already looking at OpenAI's hardware program with intense caution. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. As we watch this historic case unfold, it really forces us to ask a foundational question about the future of innovation. Can AI startups truly compete by aggressively hiring the world's top talent? Or will massive tech giants successfully use trade secret lawsuits as a weapon to protect their hardware monopolies? The answer to that question is going to shape the balance of power in Silicon Valley for decades to come. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on the federal courts.